The Van Gogh idea. It comes from one of his letters from 1888. He's in Arles searching for that clear, hard light.
Yeah.
And he lays out what he needs to do good work. And it's so plain, so systematic. He says he needed to be well-lodged, well-fed, and able to drink one's pipe and drink one's coffee in peace.
That phrase, in peace, that's everything, isn't it? It's the whole thesis of this deep dive because of the order he puts it in.
Yes, the order is critical.
He establishes the necessary capacity first. Shelter, food, a quiet mind. The coffee, the stimulant. It only matters if the basics are already handled. Yeah. He wasn't trying to, conjure inspiration from caffeine.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
He was building a sustainable worker's routine. He knew that the whole romantic myth of the artist, that inspiration just strikes from the heavens.
It's a lie.
It's a lie that leads directly to burnout. For him, the reality was that the capacity to do the work comes from protecting the worker.
Getting enough rest, eating proper meals.
And creating a psychological environment, a mind that isn't fighting anxiety or physical friction all the time. The coffee is just the key to start the motor.
And if the tank is empty or the engine is seized up.
The key just clicks. It does nothing.
Okay, so let's unpack that. If coffee is only the ignition key, what needs to be in place for the engine to actually run? We need to talk about that capacity, that architecture of the ritual of peace.
We have to. This peace principle is the bridge from, 19th century art to 21st century cognitive science. When Van Gogh went to Arles, he was deliberately trying to reset his entire environment to find clarity.
He writes about it to his brother Theo all the time.
Constantly. About how the physical conditions changed his ability to hold an image in his mind and get it onto the canvas. And the coffee, for him, it became this tiny, repeatable signal. A boundary.
A sacred boundary.
It was. It said, the chaos is out there. This moment right here is mine. The workday is starting and the mind is clocking in.
So if you launch your day straight into chaos, you're checking notifications while you're still in bed, an emergency hits before you even take a sip.
Then the caffeine is just fighting all that noise. It's fighting all that resistance just to get you back to zero.
Back in neutral. Yeah.
That's precisely where the inefficiency is. And this links directly to modern behavioral tech. Caffeine, fundamentally, it does two things. First is pharmacological, right? It blocks the adenosine receptors in your brain.
The stuff that makes you feel sleepy.
Exactly, the fatigue signal. So that's the biological nudge. But the second job, which is often 80% of its real power,
Is psychological.
it's psychological. It acts as a start bell, a cue. So if your morning starts with what we call cognitive friction, the stress of a flooded inbox, scrambling for food, all these open loops,
You're forcing that expensive chemical kick to push against the brakes.
you never released the brakes. It's an unsustainable way to start the day.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Cognitive friction. It's like this hidden tax on your attention. The energy you waste on all these tiny decisions you don't even realize you're making.
He was protecting himself from exactly that. And for you, listening today, this means we have to make that piece operational. We need to build boundaries.
So what's the tactic?
The most effective one we found in your material is what we call the first cup boundary. The rule is simple. Until that first cup of coffee is finished, you do not open your email, you do not scroll social media, you do not jump into some last-minute meeting.
The coffee becomes a deliberate pause, a gate that only opens into real, high-value work.
Exactly.
Okay, I love the discipline of that. But let me challenge it a little. The first cup boundary. For a lot of people, that first hour is when the fire drills hit. Urgent requests from, a different time zone. How do you protect that boundary when work is so reactive?
That is a vital question. And the key is to recognize you're controlling the first 10 minutes, not the entire morning. The strategy is to front-load your day with proactive energy, not reactive.
So even if a fire drill hits at 8:24,
If your coffee finishes at 8:10, you've already won. You've used those first 10 minutes to direct your own day, not have it directed for you.
so you have to pair the boundary with a specific action. You can't just sit there.
You absolutely have to. You pair it with a setup ritual. And this uses those 10 or 15 minutes while the caffeine is still being absorbed, before it even reaches its peak effect.
Okay, what's in the ritual?
3 simple actions. 1, open the main document you need to work on, the most important one. 2, list the next 3 small, immediate actions for that project. Just 3. And 3, close everything else, all the other tabs, the chat apps, everything.
Ah.
By the time that caffeine really kicks in, your path is clear, your target is defined. The friction of what do I do first is gone.
And it's not just the actions, right? The environment itself matters, the sensory cues.
Oh, absolutely. It's basic conditioning. Use the same mug every day. Drink it in the same spot. Maybe even listen to the same background sound. It helps your brain create a faster mental context switch. It strengthens the ritual.
Your brain starts to learn. This mug, this spot, this taste. It means deep work is about to happen.
We're taking coffee from being background noise and turning it into a foreground launch code.
That is a perfect transition from the artist's need for internal peace to the CEO's need for strategic risk management. The sources bring up Tim Cook, and his famous routine feels like the operational corporate version of Van Gogh's piece.
It really is. Cook wakes up before 5 a.m., and his reason is so telling. He says that hour is the one he can control the most.
The word control, not hustle. That's the key takeaway.
Yes. Cook is managing his morning like a risk manager eliminates variables. The goal isn't just being up early. The subtle move is reducing the number of decisions he makes before the important work begins.
And this ties directly to decision fatigue.
Absolutely. Could you explain that in this context? Because I think a lot of people assume willpower is, infinite, or it just resets every night.
It's definitely not infinite. It's a finite resource that drains all day. Every little choice, what shirt to wear, which email to open first, it draws down that cognitive reserve. That's the cost of friction.
So Cook's standardization, the same brand cereal, same coffee, same focus block, it acts as a shield.
Right.
By automating all those small, low-stakes choices, he saves his best cognitive energy for the big, expensive decisions Apple is paying him to make later in the day. He's protecting his peak hours.
So the goal isn't necessarily the 5 a.m. alarm. It's standardizing that first hour so your best thinking happens before the world starts chipping away at your focus.
Precisely. The principle is to use that first shot of caffeine to lock in one predictable focus block before the day gets auctioned off to notifications and meetings.
The actionable tactic here seems almost too simple.
It is. Write the first hour task the night before. That alone eliminates the biggest source of morning decision fatigue.
And then you have a two-stage morning.
A two-stage morning. Stage 1, 25 to 45 minutes of deep work with the coffee as the trigger. Stage 2. Then you check your email and messages.
So you lead the day with your agenda instead of reacting to everyone else's.
If you start with email, you instantly surrender your day's best mental state to others.
Wow, that idea alone that's worth the price of admission. The controlled hour. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for me. If the start is solid, if we've built the capacity and the ritual, how do we make sure the fuel doesn't backfire? Because if we're going to talk about the power of caffeine, we have to talk about the dark side, the limits of the dose.
And that takes us directly to section 2. Dose, deliberately, or maybe more ominously, the Balzac warning.
Right, Honoré de Balzac, the historical patron saint of the caffeine bender. We have this legend, maybe a bit exaggerated, that he drank the equivalent of 50 cups a day in 19th century Paris.
All driven by this desperation to write fast enough to outpace his incredible debts.
And even if that number 50 is apocryphal, the scale of his use was just undeniably extreme. It was central to his whole process.
He was basically using his own body as a high-stakes chemical experiment, and he wrote about it himself in an essay on coffee from the 1830s. He described how it could make the mind feel electric, extending his endurance, chasing away sleep.
It's the ultimate seductive promise of productivity, isn't it? Infinite energy.
But, and this is the crucial point the sources make, that same essay that glorified coffee was also this raw, clear warning. It's a warning about that slide from pleasure into physiological abuse. He wrote about the intensity, but also the physical collapse, the stomach problems, the jittery exhaustion that came after.
His life became a case study in unsustainability.
It's the ultimate trap, what we're calling the Balzac loop.
The Balzac loop.
It's that cycle where you drink more caffeine to compensate for the damage, mostly the wrecked sleep and the lower baseline focus that was caused by the dose you took yesterday.
He was chemically mortgaging his future.
He was. And he documented a universal truth. Coffee can be an incredible tool, but if you overuse it, it quickly becomes a tax you pay forever.
And the interest on that loan, the chronic fatigue, the anxiety, it always comes due.
It always arrives. And we can connect his experience directly to modern science. We're not guessing about this ceiling effect anymore. The evidence is remarkably consistent. Meta-analyses, systematic reviews, they all find that while caffeine boosts simple attention and reaction time, the benefits are shaped like a curve.
An inverted U.
Exactly. And gains in accuracy and judgment, the things that actually matter for knowledge, work They
Yeah.
hit a ceiling. And then they actually start to decline at higher doses.
So you get faster, but sloppier.
You're just typing faster, but your decisions are getting worse. You gain speed, but you lose strategic effectiveness.
So high performance means protecting judgment, not just speed.
Mm.
And it means protecting tomorrow, which is all about sleep.
This is the hidden non-negotiable variable. Caffeine's half-life is usually cited as 3 to 6 hours, meaning after 6 hours, half of it is still in your system. But that range, that 3 to 6 hour range is the whole story.
And why is there such a big range? Why does one person clear it so much faster than someone else?
It's mostly genetics, specifically an enzyme in your liver called CYP1A2. Some people are fast metabolizers, they clear it quickly. Others are slow metabolizers, which means that 2 p.m. latte is still significantly messing with their deep sleep well into the night.
So even if you don't feel jittery, it's quietly sabotaging your sleep quality.
It is. It's reducing your cognitive capacity for the next day, which just feeds that vicious Balzac loop. You need more caffeine just to feel normal again.
And that's the adenosine receptor downregulation you mentioned.
That's it exactly. When you use high doses all the time, your brain gets less sensitive to adenosine. To compensate for the constant blocking from caffeine, your brain literally creates more adenosine receptors.
So your baseline level of fatigue actually gets worse.
It gets much worse. You've trained your brain to be perpetually tired without the drug.
Terrifying.
Mm.
So to avoid that internal debt, we need hard guardrails.
Yeah.
The FDA says around 400 milligrams is the upper limit for most healthy adults.
But because of that genetic variability, a lot of people should aim way lower. We need concrete tactics.
Okay, what are they?
First, set a clear boundary. Start with a 2-cup ceiling as your default. For most people, 1 to 2 standard cups, so that's about 150 to 250 milligrams, that puts you right in that high-function, high-accuracy zone without the anxiety.
And second, and maybe this is more critical,
Front-load your caffeine. Treat it like sunlight. Earlier is cleaner. You have to set a clear, non-negotiable cutoff time. For most people, that's somewhere between noon and 2 p.m.
and we have to stop relying on subjective things like cups.
You must track the dose, not the drink. The variability is huge. A homebrew might be 80 milligrams. A big latte from a shop could be 250. Some energy drinks are 300 in one can.
You have to think in milligrams if you're going to treat this like a high-performance medicine.
You do. And finally, to prevent that slow creep of tolerance, that dosage escalation,
You need a reset day.
schedule a tolerance day. If you feel yourself needing 3 or 4 cups just to feel okay, pick 1 day a week to have very little or no caffeine at all. It prevents that sensitivity drift and keeps the tool effective.
The maxim here is, the right coffee doesn't make you faster. It makes you steadier.
That is the hallmark of expertise. Steadiness over speed.
Okay, so if we have our capacity set from Section 1 and our dose limits from Section 2, the third strategic move has to be timing. We have to shift from drinking coffee whenever we feel tired to drinking it for a specific purpose.
And now we move into the hyper-specific world of elite sports, where caffeine isn't a convenience, it's a precise clock, it's a chemical advantage. The source material had this incredible detail about the Portland Trail Blazers, their team strategy.
Yes.
They had a system to start brewing coffee precisely 35 minutes before tip-off.
35 minutes. That's not a suggestion, that's engineering a peak state.
They aren't waiting to feel a slump in the third quarter. They are planning for peak alertness to hit right at the start of the game when strategy and execution are most critical.
This is about scheduling energy, not chasing it.
It is. And for knowledge workers, this translates to using caffeine to peak on purpose for specific high-stakes blocks of work.
A huge presentation, a tricky analysis, a 2-hour writing sprint.
Exactly. And you should use a consistent lead time. The sources suggest 30 to 60 minutes before your tip-off task, and you keep that timing consistent so your body learns the pattern.
And the science backs this up. The International Society of Sports Nutrition, the ISSN, they support these low to moderate doses, about 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight.
And that position stand is key because it confirms the Balzac warning from a scientific angle. They say once you go past that optimal range, higher doses just add side effects.
Tremors, anxiety, stomach issues.
Right, you're paying a higher price for no additional benefit.
And we have to acknowledge that you can't just copy the person next to you. The professional spectrum is huge.
That's the crucial caveat. Even at the highest levels, the variability is incredible. Mookie Betts, an all-star, drinks 0 caffeine.
0.
And then you have a pitcher like Landon Knack who says he drinks up to 600 milligrams on days he pitches. He calls himself an addict, half-jokingly.
That range, 0 to 600, is all the proof you need that the right dose is personal. You cannot copy it.
You have to treat it like a personal pre-performance checklist.
So you choose your task, you time your kick, and you stay in your own zone. But timing isn't just for starting strong, right? The sources showed us it's also for intervening when things go wrong.
That leads us to the strategic mid-match reset, and the perfect example is Serena Williams at the 2015 Hopman Cup. She drops the first set 6-0. In any high-stakes game, that looks like a total collapse is coming.
But elite performers treat a bad set like data, not a verdict. And her response was just so tactical.
It was amazing. She asks for an espresso mid-match. She turns to the umpire and asks, almost joking, "Is it allowed?"
It's a controlled in-the-moment adjustment.
That's the ultimate strategic deployment. She didn't grab a massive coffee to just jolt her whole system. She used a small, controlled dose to change her mental state.
Aiming for clarity, alertness, decisiveness.
And she won. She flipped the whole match and won in 3 sets.
It's the clarity of the move. It's not panic. It's a signal. I need a state change right now. How do we translate that reset to knowledge work?
For you, the listener, the goal is to build a predefined reset stack. Caffeine plus a specific, intentional action. When you hit that 2:30 p.m. slump, or you're in the 3rd hour of editing and you can't see straight, first you have to name it. Call it your mid-match dip.
Okay.
Then you pair a small coffee dose, a single espresso, a half cup, with a clear behavioral switch.
And what should that switch look like? Something physical.
It has to be something that really shifts your attention. 2 minutes of a brisk walk away from your desk. Splash cold water on your face. Step outside for 60 seconds of bright sunlight.
The physical action provides the state change signal.
And the small, timed dose of caffeine gives you the focus to re-engage with clarity.
So you're aiming for a controlled re-entry, not a frantic, jittery burst of work.
Exactly. And the most critical part is what you do immediately after. Just like Serena didn't come back trying to win the match, but just to win the next point.
You come back and focus on one next small action.
One defined task. The reset isn't quitting. It's how strategic champions change the score. You interrupt the negative loop of fatigue and re-engage your focus.
Okay. We've covered the personal internal system pretty thoroughly. Capacity, dose, timing. So move to the 4th pillar. This is the one that's so often overlooked. The coffee break itself. We need to go from coffee as a solitary stimulant to coffee as a strategic setting for recovery and connection.
And this is the Schultz principle, named for Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks. He was obsessed with the idea of the 3rd place, a community hub designed for connection outside the home and the workplace.
He argued that scheduled connection, often around coffee, actually leads to better organizational output in the long run, not less.
He explicitly said Starbucks was performance-driven through the lens of humanity. And that sounds like a nice slogan, but he saw it as a strategic equation.
It was a business strategy,
Yeah.
hiding in plain sight.
It was. He had this litmus test he called the 2 chairs. Every decision had to exceed expectations for both the partners, his employees, and the customers.
And we could steal that for designing our own breaks.
Exactly. Does this break help you, your personal recovery? And does it help the team with alignment and informal problem solving?
Most people treat a break like avoidance, something you do when you're just too tired to keep going.
But the research is clear. The break is a fundamental performance tool that sustains your capacity. The systematic reviews on micro breaks are conclusive.
Short breaks reliably improve well-being.
They lead to more vigor, less fatigue. The output might not jump in that exact moment, but your ability to sustain high-quality work all day is dramatically improved. The break is what keeps you human, and being human is the key to resilience.
And then there's the social function. This is where the magic really happens, especially in a modern, distributed office.
Yes. Workplace research sees the coffee break as a vital social ritual. It manages fatigue, stress, and most importantly, it improves informal information flow.
The alignment you can get in a 10-minute chat around the coffee machine.
It can solve problems way faster than a long email chain or a delayed Slack thread. It's a communication accelerator.
So we need to stop just hoping for these chance encounters and actually design the break.
We have to. First, make it a scheduled reset. Put it on your calendar, 10 minutes, mid-morning, mid-afternoon. A predictable break reduces the decision fatigue of, should I stop now? You know it's coming, so you can push through until then.
And the nature of what you do on that break matters just as much.
Which is why the second rule is, make it device light.
If you spend your break doom scrolling or clearing your inbox,
Your brain is not getting a break. You're just changing the flavor of the work, not recovering. It needs a real break from screens and input to regenerate. Step away, Look out a window. Move.
I really like the idea of formalizing the social part just a little bit to make sure it's productive connection.
That's the power of the collision question. Instead of just talking about the weather, you introduce one simple, low-stakes question, something like, what's the one thing blocking you today? Or, what's your top priority for the next couple of hours?
It forces immediate alignment. You could solve a week's worth of email trouble in 5 minutes.
You're turning latent tension into immediate resolution. The maxim here says it all. A good coffee break doesn't steal time. It prevents time from being stolen later by friction and misalignment.
That's a powerful way to think about it.
It's an investment. And with that, the strategic framework is complete. We've covered the 4 interlocking pillars of using coffee intentionally.
Okay, let's recap. First, the capacity first principle. Establish the system, the piece, the food, the routine, before the stimulant even matters. That's the lesson from Van Gogh and Tim Cook.
Second, dose smart. You have to know your personal ceiling, understand the Balzac warning about your receptors, and front-load your dosage to protect your sleep.
Third, time precisely. Treat caffeine like a clock. Peak on purpose for big tasks, or use the Serena Williams method for a tactical mid-match reset.
And finally, ritual and rest. Design the break as a strategic investment. Focus on real recovery and use the Schultz principle for team alignment and faster problem solving.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening? The difference between a great productive day and a jittery burnout spiral. It's often not the strength of your coffee, it's the strength of the intentional system you build around it. It's moving from reacting to fatigue to actively engineering your focus.
We started with Van Gogh, making sure his life was in peace before the coffee mattered. We saw Balzac's chilling warning that if you go over the dose ceiling, you collapse the whole system for tomorrow.
We learned from the Blazers and Serena that timing the kick is about engineering specific peak moments.
And we saw Schultz championing the break as essential human recovery, recognizing that our humanity is the engine. Coffee is just the key.
We've established that coffee shouldn't start your inbox. It should start your most important work, 35 minutes before tip-off. So now the final provocative thought for you to consider. If you were to track your coffee use, as if it were a high-performance medicine, where are you wasting a dose? Where are you using it out of habit, when it could be saved and deployed with surgical precision for a real moment of high-leverage need? Think about auditing your consumption not by how tired you feel, but by how many doses you've saved for the tasks that truly matter.